We're going to do a quick little demo on tracking with masking in Adobe Premiere. And it's a very simple technique that we can use, and I'm going to show you two different ways that you can do it. Okay, to start with, I've already loaded in the bin here the two things that I want. One is just simply this forest scene, which I've used before, and it's just a photograph. And that will set the size of the image that we want. And the second thing is actually, it's a little clip taken from a very well-known film from the 50s called The Red Balloon. And what we're going to do is we're going to first track this red balloon and then impose it on top of this image here. So we just want a little bit of it, perhaps from about here to about there. And then we drag this onto the timeline here. Maybe we want to start it right around here. And actually, we don't want the soundtrack. We can put our own onto it. And we'll make this the same length of time. And you'll see that the image itself has been expanded. So we go into Effect Controls, and we shrink this so it just covers the screen. And then what you'll want to do, so you can see that the balloon is there all the way. So you want to zoom in on it, so it gives you good access to that. And then what we do is go to opacity. Really anything that has a free draw Bezier or the ellipse mask you can use. So you just click on this and you see that it just pops right up. So what we need to do is we need to shrink this. We have to make this a little bit smaller just to start with. Shrink this so it fits right on the balloon. And if you want, you can actually feather it. Now you can zoom in to make sure you've got it really well. And I'm not going to feather it at first, and then you can see how it'll work. And you got to go right at the beginning here. And then from here, it's very simple. This is how you would track it. You just have to hit this track selected mask forward. And if you have a form that doesn't change all that much, you just need to click this and it will automatically track. And then just size this to fit. And then you just click on this and you can bring it back to the beginning. And you'll see that your balloon will very nicely fly around. Now, of course, we didn't select the string, and you might, that would be another little bit of animation because the string itself would be very hard to put the actual mask around it, but you could. You just have to do a lot of alteration. We're going to do a little bit more complex masking here, more or less the same principle, but we'll use the free draw Bezier. We need to expand the image itself. So we've got that one flying through. And we want a little bit of the blue balloon. I just want this tiny little bit of overlap here and to there. This will be a very short one. And the same thing, we need to rescale it so that it fits. And we can expand this. Well, actually, I'll start at this end, just from here, and then we'll track it backwards. So we need to zoom in again. Could even go to 400%. And then we use this tool to draw a line around. I'm going to do it a little bit rough. Doesn't really matter. Now, if you want to draw curves on it, you can just hold the key down when you do this, and you can create these little tools for curving. There we go. Now you can also play this backwards, and you're going to see when it overlaps the other balloon, you're going to want to do a little bit of adjustment there. So go back to fit, and then we have the cursor right here. And then at this time, you can just track selected mask backwards. So what happens when you track it, we can actually zoom in on it. You just simply make a number of keyframes. For each frame, in fact, you make a keyframe. And you can see right at the end here, it creates a little bit of overlap. And let's say you don't want that red in there. I'm going to zoom in again. You can change the shape of it one frame at a time if you need to. Because if we continued this, the balloon would kind of lose track of the tracking itself. So what we can do is, with this key here, you can go one frame at a time. So what we can do is we can actually change the shape of a mask if you need, and then you just click this forward or backwards, and you'd have to do it frame by frame. Now this is where it gets quite tedious, and if you actually need to move it a little bit, you can. And that was the last frame, so now we can go forward a little bit, and we'll go to the other end. Now there may be at times that the mask will slip out of place a little bit, and you can actually alter this, or you can make the mask bigger or smaller, and you might need to put a keyframe in there with the mask expansion. You can make it a little bit smaller at times, and then you can enlarge it. And then you can readjust it frame by frame. So here we go. This will be quite a quick little flight. Put that back to 0. Or sorry, put that back to fit. Click on it, and here you go. So that was a rather short little pathway, but that shows you essentially how you can change it as you go. Now we're going to zoom back in here and just make a few minor adjustments. Again, you need to click onto the mask path, and if you want to feather it a bit, you could or not. So if you need to make minor adjustments through it, you can do that on individual frames. You may have to turn it. This is where it gets a little bit tedious though, but that's where you do the fine-tuning. Now, if you want the entire thing to be a little bit fuzzy, so we'll first go through this. You can have a look at it. You can see I've kind of squared it off, which when you do this yourself, you put a lot more points on it. And you can put a lot more points in this just to really smooth it out. Move it ahead a little bit, add a few more points to it. And the other thing you can do is you can feather the entire thing. So we'll start at the beginning, and we want the entire thing feathered so you can see what it'll look like. You can take this feather. You can see if you feather it enough, you'll actually get a little bit of that other red balloon. And you can actually keyframe it so it goes in and out of feathering. So you can see it just looks like a blue glow there. We'll get it to fit again, and then you can decrease the feather. And then you could refeather it, increase the feathering, and then decrease it. So there you can see a little bit of fine tuning with the masking function. You're wondering if you could layer these things, and of course you can. So I'm going to shrink the photograph here in time and expand the field. Now, what you could do if you like, I'm going to make a couple of copies of this. Command C, Command V, Command V. And then we're going to put one underneath here. And you'll see they'll both be flying around. And depending which one you actually put over top, if you put this one over top, the blue balloon will be on top of that. So we could take one of them, and then we could have another one here, and you could take that and Command R. You could reverse the speed, make it go backwards. And then you could take one other one here and perhaps Command R, change that to 40%, stretch it out. So it'll go a lot slower. I'll maybe put that on top. And you can take this entire thing and you can move it if you like so that it starts off screen. Because you can move the entire mask, or let's say the entire image. So we'll take position here. I'm going to move it off screen. And move ahead a little bit and then move it back onto the screen. And maybe have it kind of move across. So you can create additional movements on top of the movements that it has. And then perhaps you want it to fly off at the end. So here we'll have a few balloons flying around. And if you want, once again, you could put a keyframe there and you can have this one fly off at the end. There we go. Now you can watch them fly around.